Welcome to Pick Up and Deliver, the podcast where I pick up my audio recorder as I head out on a walk and deliver an episode to you while I stroll around. I'm Brendan Riley. Well, good morning, listeners. It's a lovely day here in suburban Chicago. I am taking a walk before I get started with my day, or rather, I did a bit of work this morning. Now I had breakfast, so I'm taking a walk, and I have some Zoom meetings this afternoon, so that's going to be a thrill. And I'm looking forward to talking to you about games, so I think that's what I should do. I had my Board Game Society meetup last night, and we had a good time talking about games and playing games. I got to play, we started by playing Telestrations, Seven Wonders, and Taboo, and one more in there, just one. So, good time. It was a fun game night, and the people I played Seven Wonders with, I had played this game many times, and most of them had played it once or never, so me winning wasn't that big a deal. But one of them asked something about me winning, and it got me thinking a little bit, and I looked at my board game stats today, and I realized I had logged 6,848 plays in board game stats, and that's a lot of data. So I thought I would talk about it a little bit. In particular today, this is going to be perception versus reality. I wanted to talk about what games I'm best at. And a couple weeks ago, I did an episode called Games I Stink At, where I talked about games that I don't do well at. And I noticed that Board Game Stats does not have a way to search by win percentage. And I noticed that after I'd started this project, unfortunately. So I did spend a little bit more time than I intended to doing research for this podcast. I know you're appalled that I would plan ahead. I apologize for that, really undermining the cause there. But anyway, so what I did is I first got out a piece of paper and I thought to myself, what are the 5 games for which that I think I'm the best at? And then how would I determine that? One, I said the cooperative games are out. That doesn't count because I don't know how you measure when you're best at something if you're working with other people and you're working together. So cooperative games out. So of competitive games, what are the 5 games I'm best at? So I thought about it in my head and I made a list. And as I was making the list, I realized that those numbers are really skewed because how you measure how good you are at a game is really difficult to do. For one, your opponents make a big difference. My win percentage in Through the Ages is bad, but probably a big part of the reason it's bad is because I play with very good people. I think if I tended to play with people who were not good at it, then my score would be worse, right? And this is true for all games, really. But there's also just the matter of fair share. So, all right, I'm gonna come back to that, but just hold that in your head. Think about like where do these numbers come from, and I'm gonna talk to you about what I thought it would be, what the answers were, and then what I think about those numbers. So, start with the 5 games that I came up with that I think I'm the best at, or that I think I'm very good at, and I hope that my win percentage record will reflect that, are Cartographers, Baron Park, Anachrony, Wingspan, and Lost Ruins of Arnak. I put those are the 5 games I think I'm best at, and then I went into my board game stats, and I tried to sort by win percentage for me, and I could not figure out how to do that. So then I looked at the games, and I figured out relatively easily how I could, get the screen set up in a way and click once on a game and be able to see my win percentage and then hop out, switch to the next game. So I did that for a bunch of games, maybe the top 10 or 15 games I've in terms of played number of plays, and then I looked through and found a few more that I thought I might have a high number at, and then I looked at the numbers for the games I just predicted, which again are Cartographers, Baron Park, Anachrony, Wingspan, and Lost Ruins of Arnak. So when I looked at the games, I found wildly varying scores, but I found that other games that could have reasonably been on that list, I think. All right, so I found that many of my games, my win percentage is somewhere between 20 and 40, but that varies wildly by what type of game it is. I found I found a couple games that I did not put on the list that I have decently high win percentages at. and then I found the percentages for the games I have. So, of the games I picked, the game that I'm best at is Baron Park with a 73% win ratio. Basically, I win 3 out of 4 games of Baron Park that I play. The only game at which I have a higher score that I could find was Between Two Cities. Between Two Cities, I have a 75% win ratio, which is shocking to me. Shocking. Isle of Cats, I have a 72% win ratio, which was higher than I expected. The next highest game is one of the ones I picked that I thought I was good at, and that's Anachrony, and that's 62% win ratio. And I think that was the last game that I have that's above 60. The next game that I found was Cartographers at 58%, Wingspan at 54%, and Lost Ruins of Arnak at 52%. I also have a 54% win ratio at Century Golem Edition. I have a 52% win ratio at Terra Mystica. Then I have a number of games that are in the 40s. I was surprised to find Carpe Diem at 47%. So I was actually pretty close to right. The 5 games I picked in order of highest to lowest win percentage are Baron Park, Anachrony, Cartographers, Wingspan, and Lost Ruins of Arnak. The only game I could find that would make it onto that list would actually be Between Two Cities, which is the highest win percentage I have. So the list really should go. Of the games I found, I did not look through all the games that I've played, because there's a lot of them. But the highest win percentage I have is Between Two Cities at 75%, and then Baron Park at 73%, and so on down the line. So 4 of the 5 games I picked there would be on the list, and Century Golem Edition would be tied with Wingspan at 54% for the 5th slot on the list of games where I have the highest win percentage. However, as I was working on this and thinking about it, I realized this using win percentage is hooey. I mean, on one hand, yeah, sure, that's one way to gauge it, is like, if you look at how often when I play the game I win it, that should be a measure of how good I am at it, I think. But here's the rub. Remember I said that Isle of Cats, my win percentage was 72%. Oh, that would be the other one that would be on the list. Excuse me. So it would go Between Two Cities, Baron Park, Isle of Cats, Anachrony, and Cartographers. Those would be my 5 if I had all these numbers before I compiled them. But here's the thing. Isle of Cats. I am better at Isle of Cats than my wife is. There are plenty of games she's better than I am. Isle of Cats is one of the ones where I'm better than she is. And I almost never play that game with anybody else. It's usually just she and I playing, which means that a 72% win ratio at Isle of Cats is a lot less significant to me than a 73% win ratio at Baron Park, because when I play Baron Park, I'm often playing with lots of other people. I'm not just playing with my wife. So there's a couple ways in which win percentage is not a good measure of how good I am at a game. One, it doesn't take into account the skill of opponents, right? That's, I guess, where ELO comes in, or whatever they call it on Board Game Geek or Board Game Arena. So that's one limit to this way of measuring. The other limit, and the bigger one for me, is that win percentage ignores the odds of winning, not based on skill of player, but just on like sort of your share of turns. Right? Let's say that every time I play 7 Wonders, I play with 7 people, the full boat. That means that in a field of even competitors, I should win about 1 out of every 7 games. That's my fair share, which would mean that my fair percentage is like 13% win ratio. Maybe a little more than that, 15%, something like that. Whereas in Lost Cities, which isn't one I brought up here, my fair win percentage is 50 because it's a 2-player game, which leads me to think that the win percentage, it's just not a useful stat. Now it is useful in terms of like, if I just think about like which games do I win the most, sure, this is a useful stat. But it's not a useful stat as I think about trying to gauge which games I'm best at. Because just not taking into account the skill of my opponents, I should have a higher win percentage in a game of 1-on-1 than I do a game of 1-on-4 or 1-on-3, 3 versus 3, whatever. Just because you can't win as many games when there are more competitors. So, one, I am going to do as a an addendum for this and listen for it. The audio will probably be worse because I'll be using my mic on my computer. I'm going to use as an addendum the question of what my ISO rating or whatever they call it on Board Game Arena is. This is the rating of how good you are at a game. So which game do I have the highest ISO rating? Because that's rated like chess, where you get a number based on how strong your opponent is, or your opponents. That would be interesting to see. And I don't know if Board Game Arena keeps an ISO rating. I think it keeps it per game. I don't think it gives you an overall one for your whole account. I might be wrong about that, but I think.
Future Brendan here. I hopped on Board Game Arena to look at my ISO ratings for games, and I thought I would share with you the ISO ratings for every game that I've logged 20 or more plays on Board Game Arena. Starting with Through the Ages. Through the Ages, I've logged 225 games on Board Game Arena, and my current ELO is 106. Res Arcana, I've logged 100 games, and my current ELO is 212. Innovation, I have not logged enough games to have an ISO, or they do not have that feature. Gaia Project, my current ELO is 79, and I've logged 44 games of that. Seven Wonders does not have an ELO rating, though I have 35 plays of Seven Wonders. Welcome to, I have 35 plays, and my ELO is 244, so apparently I'm much better at Seven Wonders than any of the other games there. Eminent Domain has 28 plays, but no ELO rating. That Time You Killed Me, I have 28 games logged and an ELO rating of 244. Beyond the Sun, I have 27 games played and 129 ELO. Obsession, I have 27 games played and an ELO of 94. Arc Nova, my ELO is 100 exactly, and I have 24 games. Great Western Trail, I have 22 games of Great Western Trail, and my ELO is 9. Ouch. I have 0 wins above that game, by the way. Terra Mystica, I have 21 games played, and my ELO is 133. I'll remind you that my Terra Mystica win percentage in the 70%. Seven Wonders Duel, I have 21 games logged, and my ELO is 100 even. A Feast for Odin, I have 21 games logged, and my ELO is 10. You'll remember I lose that one a lot. And Race for the Galaxy, I have 20 games logged, but they do not track ELO for that game. So, if you're interested in knowing how good I am at those other games, now you know.
But it seems to me, I would really like Board Game Stats to come up with an adjusted, like a win percentage stat that is based around the difference between your fair win percentage, or your share of wins, and your achieved wins. What if each game is worth 1 point? Your win percentage score for that game is 1 point multiplied by your percentage of winning. So the achievement of winning a game, a two-player game, of winning in a two-player game gets you half a point or whatever, because your odds of winning, or your share of winning, was half of a game. But I don't know how this would balance out, because I don't want it to be worth more. I want it to affect the stats differently. I guess I don't know enough about math to figure out how you'd rank. Because what I'd want is a win in Seven Wonders against 7 other players. When you're looking at your win percentage in Seven Wonders, if you're winning more than, okay, that's what I want the stat to do. Okay, so let's say you're playing Seven Wonders, and one game you're playing against 4 people, or in your games against 4 people, if your win percentage is above 25%, your overall win percentage for Seven Wonders should go up, because anything above 25% says that you're doing more than your fair share. So what I would want is for Board Game Stats to take that number and somehow meld it with the number from my win percentage in 7-player games. If my win percentage in 7-player games is higher than that 13% or whatever I said it should be for a 7-player game, then that should figure into my stats as well. So that my overall win percentage for Seven Wonders, they could call it adjusted win percentage or something, reflects how often do I overcome my fair share of wins. It would make that number more meaningful when I'm trying to compare Wingspan, which most of the games of Wingspan I've played are 2-player games with my wife, Seven Wonders, where most of the plays of Seven Wonders I played had 4 or more players. So if my win percentage in Seven Wonders is 30%, that's higher than the 25% I should have earned. Is that better than the 54% in wingspan, which is higher than the 50% I should earn, but lower perhaps than the quality of the Seven Wonders win. I feel like I've hit a level of abstraction that might be difficult or impossible to understand, and so I think I'm going to stop with my discussion of it now. But I'd love to hear your thoughts, and particularly if you know of a feature in Board Game Stats that does this. I may go on the Board Game Stats forum in Board Game Geek and see whether this is a number people have already figured out how to calculate. Or maybe Board Game Geek does it, I don't know. I'd be interested to know, but it would be a fun statistic to be able to look at, is my adjusted win percentage that gives me a number that I can compare with other people who also keep these stats to see who has a better win percentage when you factor in number of players in the game. So that's my stats talk for the day. I don't know if that was interesting or not. I'd love to hear, what games are you best at? Head over to Board Game Geek Guild 3269 and share your thoughts there. Which games do you think you're best at? And if you have a way of checking, which games does it turn out you are actually best at? Share those games over there and pick out the game you're best at and the big game I'm best at, which apparently on Board Game Arena is Baron Park, and head over there and challenge me to a game. Maybe you'll throw off my stats. I'm just about out of time for today, but thanks for joining me on my walk. I hope that your next walk is as pleasant as mine was. Bye-bye.
Brought to you by Rattlebox Games.